Welcome back to the Westmoreland Sports Network as we continue our coverage of the Westmoreland County Wrestling Kickoff Show. We're now joined by Hempfield Wrestling coach Vince DeAugustine, also our host of tonight's show. Vince, we have to give a huge thank you from the Westmoreland Sports Network family for having us. Clap, clap, clap.
Thank you. Wow. Standing room only crowd here. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Vince, quite a change for you. You know, you were over at Norwin for 2 years, and now you're back to Hempfield. Let's just call out the elephant in the room. That's probably the first thing that everybody wants to hear about that transition.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's obviously a tough decision. Anytime you're with a program, whether it's, 2 years or 15 years, it's obviously a tough decision. I've grown, I grew close to a few of those guys over there, and I have nothing but great things to say about my experience over there. Obviously, getting their first state champ was a memory that I'll never forget. It was quite a scene. They came home to a fire trucks and all kind of stuff. So it was really good. And again, the parents, the wrestlers are awesome. And I know you had Chase and Johnny on, two unbelievable kids.
They spoke very highly of you too.
Just really good kids. And I think they're in good hands. Obviously with Cal, I think he's a really top-notch dude. So. It was tough, but I had to make a decision that I thought was in the best interest of my family. Being on the school board at Hempfield was a little bit of a tough situation. I try to be committed where I'm at, so being committed at Norwin and being committed at Hempfield was a little tough. I obviously live closer to Hempfield, so it was tough, but I had to do what was right for me and my family. So
sure. That's where we're at. Well, and for those of you who don't know, Vince bleeds blue and silver. He was a Hempfield graduate, a two-time state champ there for the Spartans. So that's kind of where your heart is. But I can tell you this, we knew this when you went to Norwin, that's where your heart was then. I mean, that was the best situation for you at the moment, and it was really cool to watch you bring home, watch that process. Curtis fell short the year before. And, that next year you guys brought home their first state championship, and that was really exciting. Not only is your friend, but, another Westmoreland County team bringing home a state champ is always exciting, and you were the leader of that pack.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was, like you said, when you're dedicated to a school for 15 years or so and you make a switch, it's hard, what kind of dedication do you have to the new school, right? But, I mean, I'm glad you guys saw that because I worked really hard with those guys, sure. And it was 2 years, but it felt like a lot longer, to be honest with you. But it's again, I would never say anything bad about Norwin. My experience there was phenomenal.
Good. So, Coach, coming back to Hempfield, obviously, being a alum of Hempfield and having deep history there, coaching wise, are there anything from a coaching standpoint that you're going to do different? As you start to, coach, obviously you coached a lot longer than I coached for. But I noticed just with myself, each year for me as a coach was different, right? My approach to it was different. Are you going to maybe take some things that maybe you did over at Norwin and just take some things over time and you're like, you know what, coming back, I have to do this different, or I'm going to do this different?
Yeah, I will tell you, though, the first thing that I see, to be honest with you right now, it's like starting over, to be completely honest. I was gone for 2 years. I had 3 kids on the team before, which was Ethan, Tylen Sabigler, and Isaiah. When I stepped into the room, we started running workouts. I noticed that there was a lack of focus, a lack of work ethic. And it was disappointing to me because I felt like I built that program to get to a certain level for 15 years, and then it vanished in 2. And I apologize if anybody's offended to that, but that's just the truth. So right now we're working on getting back to that. I feel like I have a really good staff: Jeff Shaw, Austin Shaw, Dom Nania, Joe Qualey, Jake Beistel. I have a really, really good staff, and those guys are helping to instill that work ethic. The work ethic was there at Norwin, and again, it was there before I left. And I don't want to necessarily knock the coaching staff that was there before, but it's a huge issue for us right now. Every day we go in there, we explain to them what we expect, and we try to get back to where we were. And I'll be honest with you, they're responding pretty well. Good. But it's a process. You have 2 good days, and you take a step back. So. We're all on the same page. I have a great coaching staff. There's great kids over there. We'll get there. But like you said, In a normal year, if I would have had some time to work with these guys a little bit longer, we're probably beyond that, but we're not right now.
Success is a culture.
Yeah.
And like you said, if that had disappeared, that's something that's going to take a little bit of time to build back up. But obviously the crew that you just named, I mean, that's the team to get it done. Now, Coach, do us a favor and break that down. Is that everybody at the varsity, or is that split among the junior high too, as far as that staff you named?
Yeah, I mean, no, Josh Test is at our middle school. But what we felt, and maybe that gets back to what you were saying, George. One of the things that I felt like I had to do a better job of is being a coach of an entire program. There's times where I wouldn't step foot in the junior high room, right? And I want to make sure that I'm doing that. So what we did is we created a really good staff, a really big staff. And I'm fortunate to have a really good athletic director and good support there that allowed us to split some positions and allowed us to carry a big staff, which allows us to, Austin will go down to the middle school room, Dom will go down, Joe Quayle will go down, I'll go down. And we'll continue to do that so that we're building that entire program.
How are the numbers at the middle school program looking for Hempfield, Coach?
Well, as a competitor and listening to Randy's, I know we have more than 2. So, no, I'm just joking. No, I'm just kidding. You know the rivalry, right? So if I can throw a jab at you two guys as well, I'm always going to. So you know that I'm at least
we earned that one. Trust me.
I'm back mentally with the Spartans, right? So, yeah, but to his point, the numbers aren't. It's not a full lineup. We're anywhere between 8 and 12. Sometimes there's 16 guys down there, but they're in and out too, because whether they're quarantined or whether they have issues going on in their life, or whether we're over Thanksgiving break. There's a bunch of different things that are going on that those numbers fluctuate. But once we're able to get back to somewhat some normalcy, we'll get down there and build that program.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of joked about it, the Greensburg Hempfield rivalry thing. But is that something also that you're looking forward to?
Oh yeah, you guys know. I mean, it is, and Randy was exactly right. It is nowhere near when we wrestled. I'll never forget the times that the gyms were packed. Now the gyms were smaller back then, but I mean they were packed, meaning like there was people standing around the mat and sitting around the mat. So, I look forward to that. Do I wish it was the same, and I wish people understood it as much as when we went through it? Yeah, I do. So, but things change. It's always great to go over there and compete against you guys. You know that.
Coach, talk a little bit about some of the individuals and those expectations you have for this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously returning a state champ, and that would be, Ethan's, number one goal is to be a back-to-back state champ. We've been fortunate over there to be able to, Krivas was a back-to-back state champ. Kemmer was a back-to-back state champ. So mentally and physically, we think we can, we think we have the ability to make that process easier. And a lot of it is mental, right? So we have the ability to do that, and that's one of his goals. Obviously, Ty took 5th last year. He wants to build on that. Isaiah took 2nd. He wants to be a state champ. His pap was a state champ, and I know he wants to get on the wall with his grandpap too. So, those guys, plus there's some guys that didn't get there that are itching. You got Briar Priest and Lucas Capusta and Ethan Lieben, and guys like that are itching to get to the state tournament. So there's a lot of, we have some lofty goals. Are we going to compete with Waynesburg? Not now, but give us a couple months and we'll see what we can do with some other top programs, Seneca Valley and NA and all those guys.
Yeah. So, Coach, talk a little bit about what's it like, obviously coming back to Hempfield, but coming back to Hempfield when you have a returning state champ, runner-up, 5th place. I mean, you named about 3 or 4 guys that could easily go to the state tournament and place, right?
Yeah.
So what's it like coming back to a room of that caliber?
Well, again, I think it would be probably a different feeling had we not been through this situation that we're in. So I'm sure other coaches alluded to the fact that, the number one goal at this point is to make sure that we're able to get to tomorrow. Yeah. So that's important. But if I'm taking that aside, it's great to have those guys in here with those goals and that are really close. And you think that, one of the goals of, I think the main goal of any wrestling coach is not only to make them a better person, but when it comes to athletics, we want to do everything we can to help them get over the hump. And with Ethan, the hump is he maybe not has a hump, but he has to understand the mental aspect of having a bullseye on his back and being a back-to-back state champ. With Ty, there's some things we have to change that he goes from fifth to first or second or whatever. And obviously with Isaiah, I've been there. I've been a runner-up, and the next year you can't slack, right? Or you're not placing. So regardless of if you're the favorite or not, you just have to pretty much keep your head down and stay focused. And that was one of the things that I learned more last year with Curtis Phipps was forget about all the noise around you. You want to talk about different things and you want to worry about, things that you can't control. That has an impact on what you're trying to do. And one of the things that I learned, and it was after Kurt lost in the sections, is just put your head down. Focus on the things that you can focus on. And that's what I would tell these guys. Isaiah needs to focus on nothing other than being a state champ. Forget about everything else, right? And Ethan, let's be a back-to-back. And every guy has a goal. And it's an honor for me to be able to help them through that.
Part of that process,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
So how do you prevent an athlete from getting lost though in that process, right? Like you hear those athletes talk about, like I'll use Kelsey Anderson for example.
Yep.
When you talk about being undefeated, winning 4 national championships, and he's kind of the like kind of a freak when it comes to that.
Yeah,
but it's
sure.
like when you hear him talk about it, it's almost like he really wasn't caught up in it, right? How do you help an athlete not get so much caught up into it that they lose themselves and then lose their focus of what they're actually even trying to accomplish?
For most of those guys, I mean, and even with guys like an Altieri from last year, and I resort back to last year, obviously, because that's the most recent thing, and I don't want to take anything away from the Hempfield guys. But like with a kid like John, it's not that he doesn't have the talent to do it. Let's focus on making sure that there's certain things that we're working on that we have to get better at. And then making sure that we're not losing focus on those things, right? So the biggest thing I think that you're saying is the ability to just put your head down, like put the blinders on. Most of those guys, like a Cal and stuff like, wrestlers are different anyway, right? So, but when you get to that level, you have to be different in order to be successful. And part of that is not being able to get brainwashed or not listening to, sometimes it's not listening to your parents, right? Because they want to come up to you before your match and be like, this is the biggest match of your life. And you're like, holy heck, and you freeze, right? So I think that's part of the process is just blocking out the noise, staying focused. And but everybody's different. Everybody has their own little issues that bother them. And as a staff, you've got to be able to find those and make sure that you're correcting them.
Coach, final question. We've been asking everybody this. Tell us about Vince DeAugustine away from wrestling.
What's everybody laughing at over there? What's that supposed to mean? Flick? All right. I enjoy one of the things that I can say that I probably wouldn't have said to you. I mean, obviously I have a daughter that's 18 months old. That is just a joy to be around, right? So, and that's a new experience for me and being able to juggle that. I got engaged, so that's fun, and I have another one on the way February 8th. So outside of that, I don't really have much of a life because it's hard to, right? So, but I like the golf.
You run a successful club.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the golf course is great, and I try to get out and golf as much as I can, but
Vince is a very good golfer, by the way, in case nobody knows.
I'm okay.
He won't tell you that, but he's very good.
I would be a lot better if my fiance would work with me a little bit more and let me go out a little bit more. I think I could be a lot better.
Chelsea.
So if you can say something out, I doubt she's watching, but if she is, I need to get out there and practice. So
that is our good friend Vince DeAugustine of the Hempfield Spartans. Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome.
Hey, we appreciate you. When we return, we will have Ethan Bergen on Zoom with Hannah, I think, right? Yeah, correct. Yep. Zoom with Hannah. Ethan Bergen, state champ for the Hempfield Spartans, looking for number 2 this year. We'll be right back on the Westmoreland Sports Network.